Realization. What is realization? Seeing things in the right perspective. But how to achieve it? Know yourself first. What is the nature of realization? The plainest and simplest way of putting it is this. I had mistaken myself to be a thinker, doer, perceiver, and enjoyer. That misconception has disappeared. Here, the question how does not arise, but it has to be understood clearly that realization is no action. The process of realization, first you identify yourself with objects, body, senses, and mind. Next, you eliminate yourself from the object. And lastly, the object is made to merge in you. The ordinary man is alive to the illusion that he is bound. Therefore, he has only to become alive to the fact that he is free. Realization is only this. But what is the best means to realization? First, allow consciousness to come in at every stage of your perceptions. Recognize consciousness in all your perceptions and see that consciousness is the only real part of the perceptions. Gradually, you realize that the whole world, including your own body, senses, and mind, is nothing but consciousness, and you are free. Next, examine your statements regarding your own experience. A changeless I is found underlying every such statement, and it is the ultimate reality itself. One realizes neither as a direct result of renunciation nor as a direct result of action, but only through the deepest conviction that one is not a doer, even when engaged in incessant activity, and that one is not a renouncer or non-doer, even when one takes the role of a sannyasin or in deep sleep. So realization depends upon the perspective alone, and not upon any external manifestation. Realization is nothing but shifting the center of gravity or emphasis from the object to the subject in every perception. For example, I see the chair. Here, I comes first and chair next. But the ordinary man ignores the I and emphasizes only the chair. Correctly speaking, he ought to be emphasizing the subject I and ignoring the object chair. The shifting of emphasis from the objective to the subjective part of your activities is alone necessary to establish you in reality. What is the guarantee that realization will not lapse? If it is something you get at this moment, you may very well lose it later. However, your liberation is not an escape from bondage, but an expression of real freedom behind that apparent bondage. All the while knowing that bondage also is but an expression of freedom. Bondage is ego, and the essence of ego is my real self, pure consciousness. Well, some say that realization is selfish, but can it be so? Some people from their own relative plane say that realization of truth is selfish. Here, the little self evidently means the lower self or the ego. And so this statement is made without understanding the true significance of realization. Realization means the annihilation of the ego or the lower self. If any act is to be called selfish, the lower self should remain over to claim the fruits of the action. But here it is the death of the lower self that takes place. Nothing remains over to claim the fruit, nor are there any fruits capable of being enjoyed. So to call this selfish is a contradiction in terms. It should really be called real-ish or truth-ish. How am I to order my life after realization? After realization, you may live exactly as before. The answer is only in terms of how another man sees your activities of life in both cases. Subjectively, you have undergone a definite change from your identification with the unreal to the identification with reality. So you can no longer lose your equanimity and become desperate, because you know you are perfect and changeless. After establishing yourself at that center firmly, you will be able to engage in the usual activities of life, even with interest, just as an ordinary man does. Leaving all interest and activities to the mind, senses, and body, but never losing your center in the least. How shall one act after realization? The correct answer to the question is that there is no action after realization. Therefore, the question does not arise. But the question can be taken up at a lower level and answered differently. The world and its activities, including that of the body which you call yours, may continue in the usual manner, apparently as though nothing has happened. But by being established in the truth, you are not going to get any definite advice about your future activities. But the light from the center will so respond and react on your mind that eventually it will run only in the proper groove. The world of your perceptions will henceforward be illumined by an entirely new light and significance. Your way of life will definitely improve and will shine on a clear and new basis, being absolutely purposeless and goalless, because you have become impersonal and your activities can be assigned to no criterion whatsoever. The world and Atma, the true self, are only apparent contradictions. Whatever you assume yourself to be, so you will see outside of yourself. If you stand as the body, you see only gross objects. If you stand as the mind, you see only subtle objects. If you stand as the self, you see only consciousness. A bhakta sees all as bhaktas, everywhere outside. A yogi sees all as yogis, everywhere outside. A jnani sees all as jnanis, everywhere. As the Kappa Upanishad says, he who is chosen by the Atma itself is alone eligible for realization of the truth. It is ordinarily said that a thing attracts one. It is not on account of anything done by that particular thing that it is said to attract, but one gets attracted to it of himself. It is in this way that Atma's choosing has to be understood. It means that he who is earnest about getting to Atma, the ultimate truth, gets attracted to it without anything being done by Atma itself. That is the choosing. Not only is the direct perception path the easiest and shortest of all the paths to truth, but it also gives the most satisfactory explanation of all the problems that arise for those who follow other paths. Realization consists in becoming deeply aware of the fact that you have never been in bondage. Because realization can never happen, it can never occur in time. To the question, when shall one realize, the answer can only be when the when dies. In your perceptions, you only see form, hear sound, and so on. Form and sound by themselves do not prove or belong to any object. Each only proves and belongs to the particular sense organ concerned. You can never have more than one perception at a time. Therefore, the projection of an object as a result of one perception, together with the innumerable other concepts which are joined onto it, is indeed a real impossibility. So every perception and concept proves and belongs to only that thing in itself which is beyond the senses and mind. That is to say, it is the only reality behind all manifestation. The ultimate cause, if there is any, of self-realization is the fact of your having been accepted by a sage as his disciple. This fact guarantees the disciples realizing the corresponding fact that he had never been bound. The moment the relationship between the sage and the disciple is so established, the attention of the disciple is irrevocably directed to Atma, and the only thing that remains to be done is the removal of the mind, the one obstacle in the scene. All the attendant formalities of initiation, such as listening to spiritual discourses, are calculated only to give the mind a dignified and decent burial. The life story of the sages proves this beyond a doubt.